Here with me today, I have
Hi, I'm Shawn Lin. I'm the product manager of the Framework Laptop 13 Pro.
this laptop is a total ground up redesign while still being almost fully backwards and forwards compatible with every Framework Laptop 13 that we've shipped. So what Shawn and I are going to do here today is take this original 11th gen Intel Core from 2021 and this brand new Framework Laptop 13 Pro and show you piece by piece what's different between the two and also show you how you can upgrade from that original version all the way up to the latest and greatest.
Yeah, let's do it.
Before we open these up, let's take a look at the outside. Both of these are actually the same external dimensions, just under 16 millimeters thick, but the parts are entirely different. You can start to see some of the differences right here at the front edge. On the Pro, we increased this dimension here to accommodate a much larger battery. If we look at the bottom, the differences also continue. You can see here that the feet are different, the expansion card latches are different, and both of these designs actually came to us from Framework Laptop 12. Our industrial designer, Esther, who led the ID for 12, was also the lead designer for Pro. Okay, let's get inside so we can really see what's different between these two.
Sure.
Do you want to race, Shawn? Is this a race?
Yes.
Okay, it's not actually a race, but maybe it actually is a race. Okay,
I'm
it's a race now
ready.
because I'm ahead. This is a race.
Before you say
It's
that,
a race. You can see here that the fasteners actually are slightly different. On the Pro, they are this refined design that you can see once you get really close to it. Now, Shawn, let's flip these over and get inside. There is actually one other difference here related to the fasteners. One of the design things that we did early on 13 was actually build in this lifting functionality. So when you unscrew the input cover, it gets lifted up a little bit so it's easier to take off. Now on the original 13, we used a washer inside of that fastener area and it worked, but it made this weird little clicking sound as you're rotating it. And so we actually got a lot of customer feedback that was pretty confusing. And so what we've done here now on Pro is actually switch this to a pogo pin. We're getting really good at pogo pins now across 12, 16, and now Pro as well. This ends up not having that issue. And again, just is all about refinement and fixing things that we found on the Framework Laptop 13 as we've done all these generations of it. Let's take a look at the inside. Even though this core layout is almost the same, you can see those differences start to come out. And especially on that CNC chassis, here you can see this entire structure here is just one solid aluminum piece. Over here on the original Framework Laptop 13, you can see it's actually an aluminum formed piece that has a plastic frame bonded inside of it. Obviously, this still works. This is pretty rigid, but it's definitely not as rigid and robust as being able to go full CNC. So that was one of those major refinements that we wanted to do on Pro, really to reflect the goals of this product. Since we've got this input cover off, let's actually talk about that. So Shawn, you've got the new haptic version here. Can you actually take the haptic input cover and bring it back to an original Framework Laptop 13?
Yeah, definitely. So you can take this new input cover on your existing 13 chassis. However, for the old input cover, it is thicker in areas, couldn't really directly apply to the new 13 Pro chassis that has the thicker battery. Basically, if you want a new battery with your existing Framework Laptop 13, you will need to pick the new whole Pro chassis, or you can also buy the new button cover upgrade kit that includes the new button cover, the new battery, and also the haptic input cover. So you also get the new speakers as well.
Yes, that is really just the one place that we had to make the trade-off to be able to put in a much larger battery. That battery and the original input cover don't match each other, but we do have an upgrade path for you. But let's dig into the input cover a bit further onto this haptic touchpad especially. So if we flip this over, you can see we've got 4 piezo elements. These are driven by a Boreas driver. And so we've actually worked with the team at Boreas and also our partner Lighton, who we work with on touchpads, to tune the feeling of this thing. And of course, Shawn and I have spent a lot of hours in the office playing with different settings and tunings because we really want to make sure that this thing is at least as good as the key competition.
Exactly.
We already think our keyboard's better. We want to make sure our touchpad is as good. And then digging a bit further again into the structure, you can see here if we flip over the old input cover and the new one, that aluminum CNC structure becomes visible here too. That this piece, this aluminum cover is actually one solid piece of aluminum. Whereas on our original 13, it's an aluminum sheet that is stamped and formed and then has this plastic frame bonded to it. Let's take a look at the mainboard. Of course, there's some major differences visible here. We've got DDR4 all the way to LP cam. We've got PCIe Gen 4 to Gen 5. We've got some major differences on the thermal solution, including going to a single heat pipe and some very innovative thermal venting to reduce the overall system temperature. We've actually got a lot of little refinements too. So things like antenna cable routing going from these rubber bumpers over to these clips that are soldered into place. The tags are easier to spot for being able to disconnect those cables. And even little things like the colors of the cables moving from the default color that a supplier would provide over to our ID specified black cables. So Shawn, now let's actually take these mainboards out and swap them between the two systems.
Sure.
All right, of course, we have to start by taking out the expansion cards. I've become an expert at this over years, but normally it actually is a little bit difficult to do the one-hand motion. Whereas you can see on Shawn's Pro over there, we actually have a much easier latching system that just needs a single finger after you flip that switch over. Of course, we've got some cables to disconnect here, the battery, the speaker, the audio board, the webcam, the display, and then we're going to need to take out the Wi-Fi cards on both. This is actually another place that we really, really improved over time in terms of the user experience. This was the worst part of Framework Laptop 13 back in 2021. This terrible, terrible Wi-Fi clip. I am so sorry to anyone who tried to replace a Wi-Fi module on their original 13 because these cables just come right off and it's just terrible to plug them back in. Actually, a couple of years ago, we moved to this design here, this little plastic clip that stays with the card and actually makes it a lot easier not to lose those antenna cables. Otherwise, this is similar here. These 5 fasteners are actually in the same locations, of course, and there are the same 5 types of fasteners that we had before. So once we get these out, we can take the main board out of the system. This was also a race, by the way. Shawn, sorry. Didn't tell you ahead of time. That was also a race.
Yeah, almost there.
But we're almost there. We are almost there. All those great new clips. It's so good. All right, yeah, so we can take a look at both these main boards, and they are, of course, the same dimensions, the same size. All the ports, the interfaces are in the same spots because they are interchangeable. We've locked in that architecture and design so that we can actually maintain generational compatibility over and over again. We've done it now 8 times. This is our 8th different main board that we've built across the 13 and 13 Pro, and it's interchangeable. So I'm going to give this to you, this 11th gen to you, Shawn. I'm going to take the new Intel Core Ultra Series 3 and drop it in.
Yep.
And that's the great thing here. It's that the design architecture is the same. So you actually can take a now 5-year-old laptop and put in a brand new processor and get access to all of that new performance and technology. And it really is a pretty massive performance upgrade. We're going to publish some benchmarks showing just how huge of a leap it is going from an 11th gen all the way out to an Intel Core Ultra Series 3 across everything, basically. CPU benchmarks, the GPU is just a massive, massive improvement.
Yeah.
Power efficiency, just about every parameter you can think of is an improvement. I think maybe the only thing that might be similar is Thunderbolt. So we've got 4 Thunderbolt 4 outputs there. We've got 4 here as well. But pretty much everything else is a pretty massive overhaul, generation over generation. And so we're going to keep putting this back together. One other thing that is different that was also annoying back in the day, this audio cable is a little hard to insert. We actually made it a little easier to handle here. And part of this actually was working with our customer experience team to look at customer feedback and really think through how do we make this as easy to repair as we possibly can. So we have teams of people really reading through our community forums, reading through Reddit, reading through emails and support tickets and seeing what can we do to just make this easier to repair and upgrade every generation. And I think we've got some good improvements. Shawn, anything I missed in there? I feel like there's like a bunch of stuff in this that we've improved.
Yeah, I'm struggling with the Wi-Fi cable now.
That's the reason why I'm improving, right? You're experiencing
and trying to.
Yeah, the customer pain point of what happens when you lose that Wi-Fi cable. Shawn's experiencing
Very
it
close.
live. All right, so this is the goofy clip that we had here. So you kind of, actually, I don't even quite remember how you do this. I think you put this here, and you very carefully route the antenna cable without that popping out. So you need like an entire degree in Framework Laptop repair to be able to do this specific step. But if we take that fastener, oh, actually, I still got it. After all these years, still got it. And we can route this back through a bit. Again, this, oh, no, actually, no, I've got the new mainboard. So I actually have the nice routing.
Yeah.
So you can see there's a peg there. There's this nice antenna clip. And this is just so much easier because you can see on that mainboard that Shawn has, those little rubber clips, the adhesive on them can sometimes loosen up and then the clip comes out of place and then it gets harder to route that antenna cable. But this is just way cleaner, is way easier to use. Okay. And we are, I think, in. Yeah. Okay. Yep. We are good. Shawn, are you good? Are you good?
4 screws.
We're close.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was it. We just did yeah, you had too much coffee. That was the problem. But that was it. I mean, this is actually a generational upgrade of a laptop. We just did it in, I don't even know what that was, like 3 or 4
Yeah.
minutes. And you just got a whole new level of performance here. Super cool to have that.
Exactly.
And I'm going to put these, actually, since we're here, why don't we get some new expansion cards? We already got the expansion cards out.
Yep,
We can
let's do
grab
it.
some new ones while we're there. All right, thank you. Thus, we're going to put these in. I'm going to take expansion card, translucent purple and orange. And sorry, Shawn, I'm taking all the translucent ones. You're going to be stuck with
One more screw.
silver. Actually, we can go with, I'll go with display port right here. And then one other thing that we realized, actually, there was one other incompatibility to account for, which is Wi-Fi. And so BE211, which is the radio we've got in Pro, is a CNVIO, right?
Yeah.
Intel's going to come after us for getting that wrong. It's something like CNVIO. It's actually an interface that Intel has designed for reducing the power consumption over something like PCIe, which is what this AX201 back in the day in 2021 used. And so actually you can use the AX201 on the new mainboard, but that B211, actually it's not compatible with the 11th gen mainboard. But we do, of course, sell those B211s in the marketplace. It's pretty inexpensive. So that actually, we would generally recommend that if you're grabbing a new mainboard or you're swapping a mainboard into a new chassis, that you just figure out the right Wi-Fi compatibility for you. It's a relatively easy thing to do. One other call out here is the battery. Of course, this is the new 74 watt hour battery now being used with the 11th gen mainboard. And so that actually is compatible. Electrically, it's compatible. Mechanically, it's compatible. It's that same connector. But to get access to the higher capacity, you are going to need to update your BIOS. And so we're going to be releasing BIOS updates for all of those generations, all the way from 11th gen up to the Ryzen 8 300 series and our most recent mainboards. And so once you do that, you can use that new battery. Otherwise, you're going to be limited in terms of the capacity that you get there. All right, so that's it for the mainboard. We swapped them. It was pretty easy, relatively easy. And so what we're going to do next is actually dig into the other major upgrade, or one of the other major upgrades after haptics and battery and chassis and mainboard, which is a display. Yeah, so this is an 11th gen. This is the one we shipped back in 2021. So it is actually our original glossy version of the display. And we've got here our touchscreen, our 2.8K matte surface touchscreen, super high brightness, 700 nit compared to, I think we're at 400 back in the day here. This was kind of just default calibration applied. We're doing per unit calibration on the panels, much higher contrast, and of course the touch support. So just massive overhaul. Yes. Great panel improvement. And let's swap it since we can swap it. We actually do also have compatibility between the two panels. So we'll take the bezels off here, that original bezel, and the display is super easy to swap. This is just one cable and 4 fasteners. So we'll go ahead and do that. Okay. And similarly here, it is of course the same form factor. And one thing to call out is that this 3x2 panel in the original 11th gen, that was actually an off-the-shelf panel. So we took a panel that was being sold in the market and we actually ended up effectively designing the entire mechanical structure of the Framework Laptop 13 around this panel. The dimensions are basically dictated by this panel. And so that was a choice that we made actually back in 2020. And since then, every generation now we have to design around this original panel. So even though this was off the shelf, this panel here is actually entirely custom. It is a fully custom panel from scratch with our supplier CSOT. Let me unroute this here. And so you can see the dimensions are the same, which actually means that we made a fully custom design to match this original off-the-shelf design. But otherwise, it is entirely ground up new, all the way from glass through the surface, through the touch capability, and the backlight that's behind it. So this is actually, I'll give this to you because I really want this panel. This panel is awesome. I love this thing. And we will swap it right in. And it really does just drop into place. The dimensions are the same. And actually, while this is off, I guess one other thing we can point out is the structure here, Shawn. If we look at the top covers, similarly, this was the original 11th gen, which was actually also aluminum formed with a plastic bonded frame. This is full CNC. We actually introduced full CNC a couple of generations ago on the 13, but this geometry here is slightly re-optimized over the last CNC version. So this is still a better panel. And actually, one other thing is that this is the new antenna.
Yes.
So we're getting actually higher performance.
Antenna.
Yeah, the team did some awesome simulation work to figure out how to make this thing deliver higher throughput, even though it is also dimensionally the same. Okay, so we can get back into the panel, drop it right into the system, and just grab these 4 fasteners. Okay, so I noticed there's one other change here. I actually forgot we did this. It looks like we actually have a different color on the bracket here. It's a little detail here. What's out of
Yeah,
that, Sean?
exactly. So there are actually so many design details we try to improve so you can have like much cleaner like visuals when you use your laptops. So as you can see, this new custom CSOT display, it comes with this black bracket. So compared to the original aluminum color, which is silver, it actually makes you feel like when you put on, especially the translucent bezel, you can see like it's so clean visually.
Yeah, that's great. It's basically our ID designer has to really just dug deep and figured out how do we make this thing as clean as possible all throughout the system. So all these little design details, like changing the colors of things like magnets, brackets, cables, tags, iconography all across. It really is just a refinement level up from where we are before.
Exactly.
All right, we've got the displays back in, they're plugged in. Now all we need is the bezels. We actually had these original black bezels before, but they're off. We might as well have some fun with it. Why don't we get some new bezels on here?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, we got all these choices. Which one do you
You
want, Sean?
can pick
I'll-
first. That one
I'll
pick
take
the
this
one I
one.
want.
Oh, wait, was that what you
Yeah, no,
wanted?
I want the translucent black.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
good. Sorry, we got two different preferences here. I'll take a
Right.
translucent purple. Sean's gonna take translucent black. And we've got a bunch of other colors too, of course, translucent and opaque colors of different varieties. So lots of customization all throughout on Framework Laptop 13 and Pro. So we like to do. All right, that is back in place. Now all we need to do is put the input covers back on. So I will give you back this one since we didn't do the chassis swap to be able to do the battery compatibility.
Exactly.
I'll take the old input cover back and put it in with this new Intel Core Ultra Series 3. And then we've got two interestingly upgraded examples, I guess, of
Yeah.
taking an original chassis, dropping in a new mainboard, or taking the mainboard you already have and dropping it into a new chassis. Although we did also swap the displays, which people would not normally do. We did it anyway.
There are just so many different possibilities that you can choose the features you want. So we try to maximize all the compatibility cases.
Yeah, mix and match. That's the name of the game here. If you've got friends with Framework laptops, you can have swap parties, right? You can like all get in
Yeah.
there, mix all your modules up. That's gonna be a thing, probably, maybe. We're gonna screw this back together. Just those 5 captive fasteners over again. Actually, this looks super cool. I'm glad I picked this translucent combo because I
Yeah.
really like the expansion card and bezel being translucent like that.
And mine's most like classic.
Yeah, yours is a
looks.
classic clean look with the silver color as well, the chassis instead of the graphite. So very subtle upgrade there. It's a little bit of like a stealth upgrade that you're doing on your
Yeah.
13. And that is it. We put these two back together. We've now got 2 upgrade examples for Framework Laptop 13. That was it. Pretty quick. All of this is just a total reflection of our product philosophy. 7 generations later, it is still the same product. You can do what you want with it. You can upgrade it part by part, or even do a massive overhaul. This really is a giant leap on basically every axis, but it's still the same computer. It is your computer. So thank you, Shawn, for being here today. And if you're a Framework laptop owner, thank you for taking the journey with us to a more repairable future.